All right, so all right, so what's good, y'all? We back here at MBS TV headquarters. I'm your host. Um, this one right here is gonna. This one, first of all, quick introduction. This one right here is gonna ruffle some feathers, but my channel is aimed at a lot of you brothers in the first place. This one is gonna be, as you guys can see, this is a paternity court issue. I'm watching this on IGTV through Instagram, as you guys can see at the bottom. Well, you guys can't see actually because I'm gonna cut it out, but as you guys can see, it is a paternity court though. When it comes to these type of situations, this is going to be a singular upload that I'm going to name um, "Women Are Only Reactionary." And I'm saying that because women only do things for the reaction of other people for the most part. Because a lot of the times, most of the women, especially the most gorgeous looking women, they tend to be insecure. And when it comes to the so-called quote unquote black woman of America, these women are extremely insecure too for the most part because of the environments that they come from. Especially when you understand that most of these women grow up in toxic households due to their single mothers who can't keep a man around. This is not me bashing the black woman whatsoever, but when you come from these environments, monkey see, monkey do. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You understand? So a lot of the time, you see the women start to dye their hair and pierce their face and have a lot of tattoos because of the trauma from their childhoods. So this is why a lot of the time the Most High has made you, so-called black man, the leader, because a lot of the times we're expected to clean up this mess. But this is why it's also good too, because a lot of people are starting to wake up and get back to the scriptures. But once again, getting back to the point, a lot of women, for the most part, are only reactionary. They do things for the reaction of most people. A lot of women make bad decisions. They're just bad decision makers when it comes to dealing with men and choosing the men that, they want to inseminate them. So if you're somebody who, doesn't necessarily deal with these type of issues or doesn't deal with the woman because you're focused, then you can still learn from these type of issues because you can learn from the people around you or from the mistakes of others. But once again, let's just get into it.
You're saying you had a job for 9 months.
Yes, ma'am.
And she was texting the coworker.
Yes.
When was she texting this coworker?
We was on the line one day. I used his phone to call someone. A number comes through, which is Miss Sanders' phone number.
I don't know. It wasn't.
So are you saying this was during the window of conception, so you believe she was also sleeping with your coworker when she was sleeping with you?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Now, if you're a brother who's also in a relationship, don't believe that you're a woman. Don't believe that you can't fall victim to certain situations like this. Especially out here in America when every woman has social media on her phone. It's just an outlet for her to have free attention to everyone else. So when the woman gets bored, or when she gets jealous, she's going to be able to do things to get a reaction out of you, especially if you're not a brother. Especially, once again, if you're a brother who doesn't necessarily bother himself with too much, if you got your head down and, do your job or do whatever it is, handle your business, then you should be solid. But for the most part, a lot of women like to bring, this unwarranted, this unneeded chaos into their situations when there's not needed, where they're not needed, because a lot of these women are just, an epitome of chaos for the most part, especially here in America, whether you disagree or not. Once again, a lot of women you see, they start to deal with the quote unquote thugs or the low level niggas, because a lot of the times it's going to be an out for them when the relationship fails and goes to the ground. They're going to be able to look at someone else rather than them looking in the mirror. Why do you think a lot of the women start to dye their hair and get piercings and leave the state whenever they've, been through the town? Because they want to have to go through a new identity. They're going through a new transformation or a new enlightenment phase, where they have to leave and find a new them. Because a lot of these women, they do have mental issues and they'll even have personality disorders, so it all do with them having to dye their hair, them even cutting their hair, moving to a new state, tattooing themselves, which is just, a piece of their trauma. It's just them marking themselves due to the men that have put them through trauma. They're just like an art museum when it comes to them getting these tattoos all over their body. But once again, it's just an out for them to be able to look down and say, no, he was a low-level Negro, or he was a low-level man, and he didn't have this going for himself, or he couldn't keep a job, or he couldn't do whatever the case may be, because it's going to keep them from looking in the mirror. Once again, this is why they move states. This is why they cut their hair, you know, and they do all of these things to compensate rather than just looking in the mirror.
That's impossible. So you telling me that you seen me text somebody else, but you didn't get mad?
Oh,
Now, you see what she said? That's impossible. You seen me text somebody and you didn't get mad. Of course he's not going to get mad, you know, or you shouldn't get mad. You know, salute to the brother for not getting mad and keeping his composure because he understood what this can do for him and he understood who she was. That was, you know, just a marker for him to understand who you were. What else would go through a man's head? And the thing is, once again, they're just reactionary. For the most part, women aren't able to do things on their own. They only do things for the reaction of other people. They only do things because of someone else. This is why they have to manipulate the environment or people around them because they're not able to manipulate their environment or genetics, science. You know, they don't have the strength to manipulate the environment in their favor. So they have to manipulate the people around them or psychologically to manipulate things in their favor to see how much you're going to do. Once again, a lot of these women, they're chaotic. She was looking for you to go off and get crazy to bring some type of energy into the relationship that is not needed because this brother looks like a type of person that, you know, keeps his composure. Once again, salute to this brother for keeping his composure.
you called.
I called somebody. Which one was it?
We
Call
both
or
know I
text?
don't get mad about. I don't get mad.
you gonna get
nonchalant.
mad.
She just said it herself, Your Honor.
He got so you saying that you not mad about me texting somebody or
Your
calling
Honor,
somebody,
I'm
but
nonchalant.
Okay.
I've always been this way too, and salute to you.
So you
About
saw this
anything.
number. You saw this number come through.
I waited.
Did you have?
And look, before we allow this to continue real quick, let me interject and say this. A lot of the times women will even say things like, oh, you're emotionless, or you don't do, I was doing this to see if you really love me, and, you know, you don't show any feelings. But as soon as you do show feelings, they start to take advantage of you. You know, you should never cry to the woman and tell her how much you need her. You should never show the woman that. And if you do feel that way, you need to leave out of the relationship because she's going to incrementally start to lose respect for you, especially if she sees a lot, especially when the woman is emotional and dysfunctional by nature. If she sees that in you, then she's going to start to look down on you and start to lose respect for you as time goes on.
A relationship with his coworker? Ms.
No,
Gibbons?
ma'am, not at all.
And of course, she's going to deny.
He's telling
Your Honor,
stories. He's really
she
trying to put on for the
She
court.
called while
right
I
now.
was on the phone trying to use his
So
phone.
why he
I
didn't
ain't
answer
make my
the
phone call because
If it
of
was
her.
me, then why he? If it was me and he knew
Do
it
you
was me,
know
and
the
me and him
person
supposed to
he's
been-
talking about?
Ma'am, he don't even have a job. So what job is he talking about?
And of course, once again, a lot of the times the woman will start to demean the man that she's with, you know, to try to make a fool of him when it only demeans herself. The man didn't have a job for months, allegedly, but you're dealing with him and you're letting him hit it raw. You do know that you are a reflection of the man that you allow to nut or the man that you allow inside of you. You do know that, right? That's just, there's a spiritual transfer between the man and the woman. When sex has occurred, the spirit of the man starts to go into the woman. This is why you notice once you first start to have sex with a woman, she'll start to rebel against you. She'll start to have all these feelings where she wants to agree with you. She'll start to bring all this unwarranted energy. But once you correct that shit and she starts to know that she can't get away from it because she really does love you, her body goes through a physical change and her spirit has a metamorphosis where it aligns itself to your liking and to your, not necessarily creation, but to your help. This is why there will be a period of time where there will be arguments and she will be extremely emotional towards you because her body is changing for you and toward you. And her spirit is because you are giving your spirit inside the woman. And this is a lot of the time why men decide not to, why you shouldn't be dealing with women in the first place who, sleep around with multiple men. Because, if you understand anything about microchimerism, the sperm of every man or the spirit of every man resides in the brain of the woman. Every man that the woman has sex with, his sperm or his spiritual DNA is embedded into the woman. It's embedded in her brain. This is oftentimes, once again, why women who have been around the block, who've been fucking everybody, been fucking on Ray Ray and Pookie and Tyrone and Deshaun, and you know what I mean? That's why they have all of these different personality alters. And once again, they have a personality deficit, because it's all of these spirits that's battling inside of her, that she has bottled up inside of her. This is why oftentimes when women who have been around the block, then they have children, necessarily none of the children even really look like the man. They look like a mixture of different other people. He looked like Ray Ray, you know what I mean? But his body odor is like Pookie, you know, but he got the eyes of Tashawn, you know what I mean? It's crazy. And he has the hair of the Puerto Rican dude back in high school. You know, so let's get back into it.
You brought a witness, ma'am. I'd like to hear from her. Please stand, ma'am. And state your name.
Jacqueline Durham.
Ms. Durham, thank you for joining us. Please explain how you're related to the parties in this matter.
Well, this is my daughter.
That's your daughter, Ms.
Yes.
Sanders.
Yes.
And what do you have to add? What exactly is your understanding of this situation or your belief? Do you believe Mr. Brady is?
Now, before we even allow the mother to answer, remember what I said at the beginning. I didn't even watch this. I watched the first, 7 seconds before I decided to do this live. This is my first time watching this with you guys. But now, once again, remember I said at the beginning, a lot of the times women come from these toxic households. You know, look at the mother. Does the mother look like, you know, she's healthy? Does the mother look like she raised her daughter in a good household? You know, the mother looks like, you know, she has issues with her self-image as well. You know, which is why you see the daughter also dyeing her hair. She doesn't have bad hair. I hope that's not a wig, but you can see that it's red, that it's dyed. You know, the mother doesn't even also have gray hair as well. A lot of the time, women or mothers will even start to degrade their daughters and have their daughters fuck up their hair because they see the potential in their daughters. They fucked up their head, so they're going to fuck up their daughter's chances of finding a man or having, you know, good chances of finding a man when they're older. So once again, when they come from these toxic households, they just embed that themselves.
Your daughter's child's father?
I believe my daughter. I don't know Mr. Brady. This is my first time ever seeing.
Now, I was just seeing right now, her mother has good hair. You know, so that's a good thing. Hopefully her mother taught her how to take care of her hair, clearly. Assume that that's not a wig, right? Because it doesn't necessarily look like a wig. I don't really know much about hair for real. I don't really know much about hair for her, but when you look at the mother's hair, it's not bad at all. So she taught her daughter that, but why is her daughter's hair all the way up? Why is her daughter's hair red?
Since Caleb's been born, myself and my husband step up. We buy this baby everything when she needs help. We step up. And I called Mr. Brady and I said, you know, this is ridiculous. Caleb is 6 months old. You know, when are you going to step up? When are you going to participate in raising your son?
That's what the dad's for. I'm not.
Yeah,
dad,
but
and
you.
I'm not taking care
Well,
of
you
another
just
man's
said
child.
all she is my
And salute to this man. And you see the women in the background. They were like, tell him. Because once again, you're always going to be expected to clean up the mess of the woman. And once again, you shouldn't be laying up with this type of broad anyway. But maybe he didn't know that this type of broad was like this. Assuming, I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't know this brother. And I don't know this man. But once again, you know, once he found out what type of woman that she was, he said it was during the time of conception. That was probably what made him sure that this wasn't his child. You know, that this woman, you know, that he was going to need a paternity test. He was for sure going to need a paternity test, and he for sure should have doubts if he's telling the truth.
potential child's mother. So there is a potential.
You see
You're
why
admitting in
someone
court
else signed the
today
birth
there's a
certificate.
potential.
The thing is, Your Honor, is that even if you think that he may be your son, won't you feel like a fool if he's your son and you've never contributed 1 red cent towards taking care of him? You know what I mean?
Now, that's true. If you are denying the son, but once again, that just goes to show, you know, it represents who you are as well, because you're laying up with the type of woman that you would have doubts with once she has, you know, once she starts to have, once she starts to have children, once children are brought up, especially if she's denying you access of the paternity.
And
your daughter said to you that there are no other possibilities. You've asked her.
honestly, Your Honor, no, I have not asked her because.
And you see, I don't know if you guys seen, her daughter started to look down. Body language also tells you a lot. When you look down to the left, that's an indicator that you're lying. Not even that you're lying, but that you're not being honest. You're being dishonest. And you see the mother doesn't ask because she probably knows. She was probably the same way. You know, why isn't her father here?
She said to me that he is the only other potential. So did I go in and go behind her and say, "Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure?" No. She said he was one potential and the other.
And of course, like a mother should. Good for you.
She tested him, and now we're here with this situation. So
Finna be another failed test.
And you're confident of that, Mr. Brady?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, this one I'm saying, you would never have a baby that look as good as my child. Come on now.
And you see, once again, she starts to demean. You know, you're trying to say that your whole argument is that this is his child. And then you're going to demean the man by saying, you know, your child will never be able to look as good. His child will never be able to look as good as yours. I'm just a little bit confused here. That doesn't necessarily make any sense whatsoever.
I little boy look
Joe,
just like me.
Both brown eyes, but then they got a
Wherever
blue eye
his daddy
baby.
wherever his daddy at, he got some nice eyes.
Yeah, he do, and he's standing right there just because your eyes don't look
it
like
doesn't.
Nando
To me,
in the
Tell
to me,
look
John,
man
it
like
doesn't
me.
matter.
Now, as you... Oh, shit. As you guys can see, the little boy Caleb's eyes are green. Like, they're colored eyes. You know, like, you can't necessarily say that this is his child with this picture, at least, because it doesn't look anything like him from right here. You know, he doesn't have the same nose. You know, the baby's nose, even though the lighting is kind of bad a little bit, it seems like the baby's nose is like kind of pointing downward a little bit. And you see his nose is like extremely firm. You can't necessarily see the baby's mouth, you know, but his lips are full. The father, Mr. Brady's lips are full. You can't necessarily see the child's mouth. It doesn't necessarily look as full, but we'll get into it.
Have you tried to have a DNA test with him before, Miss Sanders?
We really had no talking. This is basically like the first time I've seen him in months. After he embarrassed me in front of everybody, I have not had no dealing with him at all.
You say he embarrassed you in front of everyone.
Yes, one day I'm walking through the neighborhood.
Now, wouldn't that be an issue? You know, a lot of people start to talk about red flags, red flags. Wouldn't that be a red flag? You know, she hasn't talked to the father in months to try to make sure that she can prove to the father that this is the father's child. You know, wouldn't she want to demand him a paternity test so she can prove to him that this is, so she can at least start to get the father involved in the child's life whatsoever? No. So she said that, you know, it's taken months. And once again, it said that she got embarrassed is what, you know, it's taking them here. Once again, a lot of times women aren't able to do things out of their own volition. They're only able to do things for the reaction or because someone else did something or they think someone else did something. As Chronicles of Judah 144 would say, the main emotions that run the woman are jealousy and boredom.
He asked, he was like, he just called my name out the blue. So I'm like, okay, here we go with this mess again. He said, can I see the baby? I said, yeah. I lift the blanket off his head. Here he go. I told y'all that's not my baby. Y'all look, this is not my baby. Look his eye, that's not my baby.
Well, it'd be nice if...
Well, if you're with your friends and the word of the town is that, you know, it's not his baby and he want to see the baby and see for himself and he sees that the baby looks nothing like him, how do you expect him to react?
Somebody else knew besides me.
Lord, please.
Exactly, and that's the thing. How else would you expect him to react? The fact that someone knew beside him before him. You didn't reach out to him. This is the first time you even spoke to him aside from him seeing that baby, right? So why are other people familiar with the baby and what the baby looks like, but not the father, not the alleged father?
So he did this out in public in front of people?
In front of everybody, calling his friends over like he
Somebody
just
got to
started
know
in the
besides me,
neighborhood.
this ain't my baby, and I want somebody to tell me that this ain't my baby because...
Now, and real quick, now, if you guys understand and familiar with societies all across the world, a lot of women be like, oh, it's the patriarchy. Women were discriminated against. We have it so hard out here. Well, I have a podcast coming about the grandeurs of delusion when it comes to the modern women of America. You know, they don't understand how easy that they have it. You know, the public shame and the public humiliation is needed. it is extremely needed for the woman, because as a little boy, as little children, we have to go through this. And they say that shame builds humility, that it creates humility. This is true. It gives you humility. You know, but also, if you look at the other countries, especially when you look at the Middle East, the women, if they don't have, you know, their hymen intact, you know, which is a sign of their virginity, a lot of the times they kill themselves. If a woman steps out of the relationship in the Middle East, in certain countries, especially in the Muslim countries, the Islamic countries, right? If the woman steps outside of the relationship, she's publicly shamed, publicly. And the men and the women of the entire community understand, and they shame the woman. A lot of the times they even, you know, even back a few, not too long ago, women would be, if I'm not mistaken, they'll be killed. They'll be beheaded, if I'm not stoned to death. In the biblical times, women would be stoned to death for sleeping outside of their relationship. And this is why, you know, once again, when you hear, you know, the conversation of men being able to deal with multiple women, their argument will be, well, why shouldn't we be able to do it? You know, the women, for the most part, they're only able to do things out of reaction. Women only want to sleep with multiple men because they understand deep down inside that men can sleep with multiple women. How many times you've been talking to a shorty and she acknowledges her competition by saying, oh, I know you was with your other shorties, or you didn't hit me up, it's all right, you didn't answer my phone call because you were with your other hoes. And don't deny don't deny the competition that the woman has. Don't never say that you don't got other hoes. You let her know. You understand? Because this lets her know that she's walking a tight line. She don't want to fuck up her situation. A lot of the times, a lot of us brothers, or a lot of you Negroes, you know, you tend to be simping out here walking a tight line because, you know, you don't want to offend the broad.
The same
And that's
reason
why
I'm
we're here
saying
today.
that.
And that is the reason why we're here today.
But, sir, listen. At this point, whether they think it's your baby or not has no bearing on the DNA. If, in fact, this child is yours, you're going to have to step up to the plate. Mm-hmm. Because she says she's really...
And once again, but nobody has any reaction to what he's saying whatsoever. No one, it's as if they always believe the woman. The woman, for some reason, you know, they can never see other women cheating and doing dirt. And even when they do, other women never even hold them accountable. They always tend to be in agreement with the women. You know, as if the woman just never lies. The woman is just this prickly, perfect, you know, God, thank you. Look what you've given me. You know, it's just funny, man. Which is why you got to be on your P's and Q's, man.
struggling to do this on her own, and she's saying to you, this is your child. You admit in open court it potentially is your child. I have to say I agree with Mom, Miss Durham. I don't know. Will you be able to forgive yourself if this is your child that you're on notice? The baby's here, and you got a job. You said it 1,000 times.
So he's saying.
Would it hurt that much to just help a little until you find out if in fact it is your child?
Exactly.
Because if it is, you've missed 6 months
No, but
of his life.
I mean, y'all,
Oh,
if
but
he
if
just
it is, man,
contributed
I'm willing to
$2
step
on
up.
wipes, I mean, he can buy a pack of wipes for like $2.
If he buy some
but you know,
milk.
And this is the thing, man, brothers, stand on what it is that you believe in. If you don't believe that a certain child is yours and the woman was sleeping around, whatever the case may be, don't buy that child shit. That is not your child. If it is not your child, do not invest in another man's seed. You're taking time, money, and energy away from yourself and your future children. Okay? Until you get that paternity tests are mandatory. You got to be able to sneak that in too. Whenever you have endeavors with your women, you sneak that in there and let them know that paternity tests are mandatory.
it's something.
Milk don't
Why-
cost that much.
I do what I gotta do.
But you don't do it for
take care of
Caleb.
mine.
You do what you
take
gotta
care
do,
of
but you
another
don't do it
man's
for
child,
Caleb.
period.
Agreed. You're not taking care of another man's child, period, until you get that paternity test and you know. And even then, you still have to deal with the backlash because the woman was sleeping around, and you'd always know in the back of your mind that she was talking with your coworker. He wouldn't just make that up to say, you know, that's not his child. For the most part, a lot of brothers, you know, when they do have a child and they know that it's theirs, they want to do something for the child. They want to provide for the child. For the most part, it's a lot of brothers who these women open and choose to deal with because, you know, they know that they'll be able to get money out of them through the court. You know, even if they don't, even if they don't fucking get the child support from them, they can just go right on to Section 8 and that's their meal ticket. 18 years of free living.
So
If
your
it's a possibility-
position is you don't care if it's a possibility that it's yours until you know for sure you will not.
So why not?
He
do
has
it
to
at
be
2
my
months?
bloodline.
Why not? Why
I
not
got
find
to
out
know
in
he
2
my
months
bloodline.
instead of almost 7 months?
Agreed, brother.
I
Why
mean,
not
you
find out
going
fast?
through.
Him to
I gotta
have
know
a
that he
DNA
my
test
bloodline.
before.
He's
Let
going
me take
through.
care of him.
He's
I
going
have
through
not asked
Facebook to
him.
find out and asking people on
I
the
ain't gonna
street,
do
but
it.
he won't
Somebody
go
show
do
me.
the DNA test to
Somebody
find
came
out.
to me and
And of course, you're gonna have doubts as a man. Whenever you're going through these type of situations that he's going through, of course you're gonna have doubts as a man. You're gonna try to, not even sneak around, but of course you're gonna try to go around. If you have social media, that's why social media is a detriment. If there was no social media, you wouldn't have this issue. He would have had to be there. He knew, okay, with social media, the nigga she'll post a picture of that baby. If it is mine.
told me about it.
You had to sit there long enough to
I
even
mean,
get the
if you want to
information.
find it, he's
Hey,
going
they
on the
showed
street
me
to
the
find
picture
out,
and I went to
asking what
deny.
everybody think, but
Exactly. Once again, they showed him the picture and he went to deny, and that's all he had to see. Once again, the child is 60% composed of the father's Y chromosome. I don't get what people don't understand about this, man. We've learned this in 7th grade science. Well, at least I did. You are composed 60% of your father's Y chromosome. This is why the child receives the father's last name. Because you are what your father is. Even if you look dead on like your fucking mother. Genetically, you are composed more of your father's Y chromosome.
he won't go and do a DNA test to
They
find out.
showed me the baby and I
mean,
went
the
to
baby's
deny.
almost
It
7
don't
months
look like
old
me
now.
or my other son.
And that's a valid. Once again, the child is composed of the father's Y chromosome 60%. So you should expect the child to look like yours. If your other children or your other child looks like you, if you should expect your other children to look alike. Somehow whatsoever. My father's other children, especially my his second daughter, we look dead alike with my other sister. So there's no denying that. So, and of course you're going to have doubts if they don't look alike. That's understandable.
All right. Well, we've done the DNA test, and I have the results. Jerome?
Jerome, bring your motherfucking ass up here. Bitch ass white boy. It's reparations round this bitch. Fucking punk ass white boy.
These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics,
And then he came up there and handed him papers over like a straight bitch, nigga.
and they read as follows. In the case of
Jerome is a bitch ass security guard who gonna hand me these papers. Oh, my bad. That's not what I was supposed to say. My bad, Jerome.
Sanders versus Brady,
Jerome is still a bit. Oh, my bad, Jerome.
pertaining to 6-month-old Caleb Robinson. It has been determined by this court.
Now, before we allow this to play, you can see in the man's eyes, he's just like, man, come on now, get this over with it. You can see that the woman is kind of, she's just hoping to bank it. Come on now, get this over with so I can act a fucking fool.
You are not.
I told her that wasn't my baby,
Sit down.
Oh, shit.
I told her.
Sit down over there. Stand right where you're standing.
I told her, Aunt. I knew it wasn't mine. 100% positive.
Miss Sanders, he said he was positive.
Now you can see the other woman in the background. She you got some explaining to do, baby girl. Now, once again, once the woman is held with the public shaming, once a woman is finally revealed to a mirror, once a mirror is held up to her, you can see how humble they get. You see how she was demeaning the man. She was demeaning the man before the case. Now look at her spirit now. She is completely broken. As a little boy, you go through these moments in life early on. I'm going to give y'all a quick story real quick. I'm going to give y'all a quick story real quick. I remember I was, 4 years old, bro. I want to say I was 4 or 5 years old. This, rest in peace to Aisha. My dad's cousin Aisha lived up the street, right? His daughter was having a birthday party, right? And I was like on punishment. I was grounded. I was like in trouble. I wasn't supposed to be leaving, right? But they was outside. He was with his friends smoking, whatnot, right? And then my brothers and them, they went over. I was like, oh, y'all going? I should be able to go. I'm in trouble, whatnot. Long story short, I go, you know what I mean? My dad called me across the street. He tells me to go inside and get in my underwear. And then to come outside and to go to the party. You know what that did to me as a little boy? I don't hold my dad, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, he hated me and, you know what I mean? Oh, I had it hard as a little boy. It taught me humility. You understand? There's consequences for every action. You understand? And you sleeping around, Miss Ma'am, you sleeping around, I hope this has taught you a very valuable lesson.
So who the
I don't
other
understand.
possibilities?
I really don't understand.
Of course you don't understand. Because there's no way that you were sleeping around. Clearly you weren't sleeping around. Clearly he was the only one you were sleeping with. So y'all just need a retest. That's it, right?
So it's not your ex's, it's not his.
It was no one else. It was no one else.
Had to be.
It was no one else.
And once again, she's looking to the left. I don't know if she's looking at the man, but she's looking at the corner of her eye. She knows exactly who it is, because she knows that the brother is right.
It has to be somebody else.
Gotta be somebody.
It has to be one
somebody else.
other person at least.
Even the mother is saying it has to be somebody else, but of course she's in denial. Once again, a lot of the times when it comes to women and their bad decision making, they like to do a lot of things rather than just compensate by looking in the mirror and holding themselves accountable and culpable for their own actions and being culpable for the wrongs of their decisions. Pitiful.
Obviously, you have some thinking to do.
Clearly, and she didn't like that. You can see she rolled her eyes when the judge told her, you have some thinking to do. She did not like that at all.
Because there is at least one other man.
Nope, no possible way, Your Honor. Not true. Can't be.
That could potentially be your child's father. If you're saying you have no idea, you got to start trying to figure this out for Caleb. Now, Mr. Brady, you've maintained from the beginning that it was not your child. And in fact, the DNA proved just that. As much as I want Caleb to know who his father is, I also want him to have a father that wants him. Mm-hmm. But every child at some point
Once they real dad,
just wants to know. Mm-hmm. The good news is he's just 6 months old.
And you can see in her eyes, once again, a lot of times trauma has to do with a lot. Not even just with women, but with humans in general. We do, I do reviews and go in detail on the MK Ultra program and the things of that nature, allegedly, right? Allegedly that the United States partakes in, and it's all, trauma based. A lot of the times that creates other alters and it does things, right, to your mind, and it shifts your mind and creates even a different personality. Now, when the girl looked away, right, when she was talking about everybody just wants their father involved in their life, their real father involved in their life, this is true. Now, you can just see in that girl's eyes, she reflected to being a little girl. Deep down, she is still a little girl. And the trauma that she has from a childhood, she portrays in her everyday life. She tested 3 different men, so that means she was sleeping around with 3 different men at the same time. Could that be that her mother was doing the same thing? Hopefully not. hopefully, but monkey see, monkey do. A lot of the times we are reflections of the households we come from, or the people who raise us, whether we want to believe it or not. And this is how we endeavor or even endure certain traumas. You know, a lot of the times, especially modern women, they put themselves through unwarranted trauma. Not saying her growing up without a father was her putting, clearly I'm not saying her growing up without a father is her putting herself through unwarranted trauma. That's not what I'm saying, you know? But because she didn't have that, she's living it out vicariously, you know, or subconsciously at least, when she can be doing a lot better. She knows what she went through as a child, yet she does the complete opposite actions to have the opposite outcome for her child. And once again, this is why my channel is aimed at a lot of you younger brothers. A lot of you younger brothers don't have that big brother or that uncle or that, you know, big cousin or, you know, even that father or, you know, grandpa, whatever that masculine figure that, you know, in your household. Even though I'm not in your household, you know, you probably playing me through your earphones or, you know, on your PlayStation 4, on YouTube, whatever, however you listen to this, right? But, you know, this is just a place that you can go to, you know, that's open, you know, for a lot of things that you're not taught, that you weren't taught or should be taught, you know, because I was able to come from households, or I was able to come from a household. I was able to come from a household that was conducive for my mind, you know, to be able to reciprocate certain things without having to be taught them and sat down by my dad. My dad didn't have to sit down and teach me most of the things that I've learned, or a lot of the things that I have learned, because I was a daddy's boy. You know, I was always around my dad. So most things that I have learned to acquire or I've done, I just do because I seen my dad do it.
So he does not get all of this. And if you
Unless he goes to YouTube and sees this shit when he's older.
do the work, Ms. Sanders, you have time now to try to rectify this and pull it all together, connect the dots, so that he doesn't have to do the search. Jerome knows we sit in this courtroom with adult people standing in this courtroom 30 and 40 years old, still trying to answer the question, who is my biological father?
It's fucking sad. But that's all we got for here, y'all. I'm out. Peace.